First thing up is Dolores and Tom Brewer.
We're just going to start out with America the Beautiful. If you want to join in, that's fine too.
Oh, beautiful
For spacious skies, for amber ways of grain. This is a song that we've always enjoyed singing, and it's a hopeful song, and we just thank the Lord that someday all of our troubles and trials will be over and we'll have a glorious place to be. So, what a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see, and I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace. When he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day, that will be.
How many veterans do we have here? If you are a veteran, would you please stand up? If you're a veteran, please stand. Thank you for your service. Also, at this time, I'd like to introduce our new Lieutenant Governor, Clyde Donovan. Clyde, would you please stand up? This is our new Lieutenant Governor. Dustin, would you stand up? Dustin's been our Lieutenant Governor the last 2 years. He's done a very good job. Dustin, thank you very much. I first met this gentleman in the early 1970s. Didn't know him very well, but as the years went by, I got to know him very well because we competed against each other in track and field as coaches. Little did I know what type of accomplishments this gentleman would have. He's a former teacher and coach at Carlinville High School. He's a Hall of Fame member of the Illinois Track and Cross Country Coaches Association. He is a former state champion for Carlinville High School when they won the state track and field meet in 1996. He is the current president of the Macoupin County Retired Teachers Association. And on top of that, like a lot of us retirees, we're really involved with our churches. He is a music and pianist for the Rural Methodist Church. Came all the way from Carlinville. At this time, I'd like to introduce, and let's give him a good Bunker Hill round of applause, Mr. David Jokisch.
Thank you, Bill. Yes, famous Carlinville. Although I don't think it's famous yet. I don't think the video has made the news. But yesterday, a deer broke through the back door framework into the junior high. It was on the security camera. That's where the video came from. He nosed around for a while by the junior high trophy case. And still on the first video, you eventually see the deer leaving. It hasn't made the St. Louis news. I don't know if it will or not, but that really doesn't happen very often. And the window worked properly in that it did not break into shattered pieces that would have hurt it. Whatever the strings or wires in safety glass pretty well kept the window intact when it fell on the floor. And for some reason, how it decided to know to go back out the same way it didn't. So Carlinville is now, well, we think it's famous. Christianity and sports. Sports has been part of my whole life, and church has always been part of my life, thanks to my parents' upbringing. Music has always been part of my life. Well, we're meeting for band period, and in comes a representative from that contest and said, David Jokisch, you get the award for your trombone solo. And the award is a summer scholarship under Stan Kenton at Indiana University. I went, whoa. And they said, and also we hope that after you attend this summer, that you will stay on and enter your freshman year at Indiana University. And I said, I'm sorry about that. I'm only a junior, not a senior. And they said, oh, we can't give you the scholarship. Who would have known God was looking after me because dance bands didn't last, and I still could coach and teach forever. According to Market Watch Incorporated, and this goes back to 2017, I'm sure the numbers are higher in today's age, Americans spend over $100 billion on sports, $56 million on attending sporting events, $33 billion on sports equipment, and $19 billion on gym membership. And I'm sure those figures are much higher in today's age. Sports and athletic competitions have been popular since ancient times. The Bible draws several analogies of the Christian life from the sports world. In 1 Corinthians 9, verse 26, it reads, "So I do not run aimlessly, I do not box as one beating the air." And that, of course, is reference to shadow boxing. The author of Hebrews likens the Christian life to a race. In Hebrews 12, verse 1, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us all lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." And Paul admonishes us to run in such a way to win the prize. From 1 Corinthians 9, verse 24, "Don't you know that the runners in this stadium all race, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way to win the prize." Of course, most of the references there refer to running. The original Olympics primarily was a running race, and it was about 200 meters long. I'm sorry, but the race was for only men, and the spectators were only men, and they didn't have much clothing on either if they were racing. It goes back, you'd have to study the Greek body and the culture behind the Greek body. Well, anyhow, one of the interesting parts was if you started before the gate dropped, you were tied to a post and flogged. They were a little tough on their rules back then. Well, back in the 60s at the University of Illinois in graduate school in physical education, one of the choices of several choices was sports psychology. And that's what I decided to pick. So I wanted to choose a new area, and sports psychology was new in the 60s as a field of study. So I guess I took it out of curiosity. Some of the tricks that I used in track and field, I didn't call that sports psychology to the athletes, but it was in that field. For Carville kids that didn't realize it, but I decided that I'm going to have the kids send mental signals from the brain to the power leg when you start the sprints. And the power leg in a sprint start is positioned in front of the two-leg position. So on the set signal, here's my sports psychology, I said, when you hear set, all you think about is sending nerve signals to that power leg. When I hear the gun, explode. When I hear the gun, explode. I'm talking to the power leg. And very few of my sprinters got beat out of the blocks. Giving the Bible's positive use of sports-related analogies, there could be nothing inherently wrong with viewing or participating at the athletic events. It's something Christians can and do enjoy. Christian athletes and coaches often have the opportunity to use their prominence in sports as a platform for advancing the gospel. Christians who play sports can attest to the many benefits that such involvement can provide. The endurance and perseverance required in athletic competition can be valuable in building and strengthening character. Every athlete exercises self-control, and self-control is important in all things, as mentioned in 1 Corinthians 9, verse 25. In the crucible of competitive action, the presence of self-control, or the lack of it, becomes obvious to all observers. We've been there and done that. Some athletes and fans handle game-related adversity with grace and poise. The problem is not the sport, it's the inner character of the athlete or the fan. In many ways, a sporting event provides an occasion to test the character of both winners and losers. Christian athletes, coaches, and fans should display the Spirit's fruit, no matter where they are, be it on the court, on the field, or in the locker room. Besides coaching track and field early in my career, I also tried basketball coaching. I learned some lessons. One was from this young man over here, Jim Lofgren. I found out how much I didn't know as a basketball coach. The real problem became as a head coach is that I couldn't leave it at the court. Wisely, I got out of basketball coaching. I went into basketball officiating. Talking about going from no win to no win. But I enjoyed it. It kept me in touch with the game. A challenge, yes, but somehow I was able to weather the storm, especially on those tough nights. One of my goals was to always obtain a contract to work at Collinsville because that was one of the meccas of basketball. But I knew going in it wasn't going to be easy. But I still knew going in if you work Collinsville, if it's an easy call, it'll be close to the Collinsville people. If it's a close call and it didn't go their way, it was the wrong call. If it was a bad call, you probably better watch out. Well, again, it was quiet enough as I was officiating the first half. There was an elderly lady, gray-haired, that was about 3 rows up, not too far from the score table, and she was giving me holy net the whole first half. Every time I would go towards the table to make a call, you could hear her, or at least I could. An official knows there's some games that are really tough. You just have a whole bunch of close calls. This one wasn't that tough. Most of the calls were fairly easy, and she was just after me. I went in halftime, and I was kind of down like that, and the scorekeeper could tell that. He was an elderly gentleman, nice smile on his face, never reacted to my calls. There are some scorekeepers, and I won't tell you what schools, but you could tell their body language as to whether it was the right call or not. I came out after the halftime break, walked up to the elderly scorekeeper, and he said, "Dave," he said, "you're doing a great job. Don't pay attention to my wife sitting back there." Basketball officiating in Illinois. It's easy for an athlete wishing to succeed to devote an inordinate amount of time and energy to training to the neglect of family, friends, or walk with God. The Bible helps us clarify our priorities. Physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. And that comes from Timothy 4, verse 8. And in terms of priorities, I definitely have a concern of what's happening in America, recreational-wise, especially for the young. We are now building in America huge recreational complexes. Then we create big tournaments. Then we bring in the whole family. They've got to pay for lodging. They've got to pay for meals. They've got to pay for that entry fee. And are we losing the little kid just wanting to go out there and play, just wanting to go out and play? We've made recreational complexes into a way for a city to advance their economy. Here's some features of a contemporary Christian perspective on sports. Our dignity as human beings is grounded in our being created in the image and likeness of God, a unity of body and soul. God gives each of us varying talents, including athletic ones, to develop in loving service to God and others. If you develop your God-given athletic talent, you are giving God the glory. And you can be a star when you do that, or you can be the first substitute. And if you develop your talent, you are giving God the glory and you're helping your self-image. We must remember that the body is an instrument for a full human life, not an end in itself. For instance, when we try to win at any cost, we reflect a cult of the body that downplays the spiritual dimension of athletic competition. Keeping youth sports, especially from pre-teens down at local levels, helps prevent win at all costs in sports. If you've got a little kid that just wants to play, and instead he's going with his family out of state to a tournament, and he knows that they're paying for lodging and food and uniforms and tournament entry fee, he's got to produce. He can't just play. anymore. So I have a real concern about our American preteens. Yes, I'm fully aware that come high school, there's college scouts who are already looking at those national tournaments at a high school level. I know that's part of the scholarship trend right now. I'm just trying to help out that preteen to enjoy sports. We've got kids in the high school level who are good athletes who are dropping out of sports. They've had their fill, and that's a concern to me. Sport is a wonderful option for those who enjoy participating as a player or a fan. Derived from the God-given impulse to play, people play sports primarily for the love of the game, the thrill of competition, and the joy of participating with others. Not everyone enjoys sports, and that's okay. For those that do, the passion of sport can lead to a meaningful and enriching experience when one participates with gratitude to God and genuine humility. You've heard the statement, sometimes a tough loss is a great teacher. If you pay attention for why the loss happened, sometimes that's a better teacher than a victory on a particular game. We desire to be excellent, to belong, and yes, to win, or at least we invest enough to have a chance. Sports can develop certain character traits, produce benefits like scholarships or endorsements, foster social relationships, and even embrace and develop faith. Christian athletes can be role models of sportsmanship, fair play, discipline, and integrity. The current American stadium building projects remind me of the days of the Roman Empire. And the current MMA fighters kind of remind me of gladiators. Of course, you know that the Roman Empire eventually fell. I did an undergraduate paper on the fall of the Roman Empire. But I re-looked it up recently to see if the factors are the same on the fall of the Roman Empire. Listen to these factors, see if they sound familiar. An unsound economy, political figures who are warring against each other, climate change, an epidemic. Do those factors sound familiar? Maybe we need to look at history, see what we need to do. And my final long story is about David and Goliath, and the key word, respect. And of course, David was a shepherd. And so with David and Goliath, Goliath was a big guy. Goliath at the tallest was measured 6 cubits, 1 span. That would place him at 9'6". I doubt that was really the case. The smaller accepted 4 cubits, 1 span, where 4 cubits is 4 times 1.5, and the span is 9 inches. Came out to 6 feet 9 inches, and that was probably more likely in the 7-foot area or close to. And Goliath was big weight-wise too. I looked up in the Bible the weight of the breastplates and armor that he was wearing, and he had to be a big guy to carry that off. David, on the other hand, was early teens, about anywhere from 4'10" to 5 foot. And the Philistines told the Israelites, hey, rather than all of us kill each of us off, let's make it a one-on-one contest. And so the Philistines made sure they had Goliath, their giant, who was out of the family of giants, be the one that would fight for them. And the king of the Israelites at the time, Saul, he was fairly tall. He was right at 6 foot. And I think the Israelites kind of thought he would be the logical one to take on Goliath. But Saul said, let's try our son, the shepherd, at 5 foot, about 15 years old. So out marches David and approaches Goliath. Goliath looks at David and said, am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? And he said, come here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds and wild animals. It didn't faze David. What does David know that Goliath doesn't? What Goliath didn't know was that David knew how to use a sling. And I said sling, I didn't say slingshot. Not one of those. It was a sling. which were 2 cords attached to a leather pouch, and he would put a stone in the leather pouch. So Goliath is ready to go, but so is David. What Goliath didn't know was with that sling in that day, it had the capability of hurling a stone 200 yards, 2 football fields. And when he got his momentum up from the circles, there's indication that he could rotate that, or a good shepherd could rotate it 6 times per second, let go of the 1 cord, and out would come the stone at close to 70 miles per hour. The stones that he had in that region of Valley of Elah were not normal rocks. They were barium sulfate, which are rocks twice the density of normal stones. And when scientists use calculations on that, if the slinger was not too far away and the stone was still traveling in the 60s to 70 miles per hour, it had the power of a 45 millimeter gun. Goliath didn't know that. A good slinger was also very accurate. Shepherds were noted to be able to kill birds in the air. They were able to kill lions and wolves. They had that task ahead of them. Goliath didn't know that, and he also didn't know to protect right here, because you've seen some helmets that protect there. He wasn't protected there. David had 5 stones, he only needed 1, and Goliath came down. If only he would have had respect. If only he would have respected David, who knows how that story would have come out. And I think we need that story to emphasize that we need respect. We're losing respect of our fellow man. We tend to hear in the news a whole lot of disrespect. And I would challenge us to use David and Goliath as an example. If you hear a difference of opinion, respect it enough to read for yourself their side. Don't just read your side. Read both sides. Respect your fellow American that much, and I think we can start to make progress where we should. I end up with one final example. There's a website called the National Federation of High School Sports. I'm able to watch a lot of Illinois high school contests. Well, earlier in the fall, I saw what to me is the perfect example of this speech. It was Williamsville versus Monroe Forsyth in football. On that game, the camera at the stadium came on just pre-warm-up time, and there was a crowd in the middle of the field that contained both Williamsville and Monroe Forsyth uniforms. Not complete teams, but some of them gathered in the middle, and they had a pregame prayer together. Then they went to compete, and yes, they competed just as tough and aggressively as you'd ever want. And it was a close game. I think Williamsville ended up winning by less than 6 points. And no more than at the end of the game, usually you see the teams line up and kind of pat hands. They were hugging each other. Opposing players hugging each other. And I said to myself, sports and Christianity, I just saw it on that video. Thank you.
Thanks for showing up. And the missus, Tom, we'll let you end it with the benediction.
Thank you for the people of this community that have supported this effort this morning. And we just ask that you help us in all ways to be a benefit to our communities wherever we might live.